Hello. In this video, I'm going to talk about secrets in the games Hollow Knight, Ultrakill, and Afterimage, with light to heavy spoilers for each game. You've been warned. Secrets. Who doesn't like a good secret? Sheikah Zelda, the Sans Undertale fight, Would You Kindly, the list goes on. Hell, Hollow Knight is pretty much a game all about secrets. Metroidvanias as a premise are pretty much built on them. But what makes a good secret? What happens when a game tries to build up this massive reveal or reward just for it to fall flat? Today, I'm going to compare secrets from a few different games to try and illustrate just how amazing Hollow Knight is at developing, teasing, and revealing its secrets. Yep, buckle up, it's a video essay episode. Let's talk about Hollow Knight's secrets. To start off, we need to define just what a secret even is. The word secret is defined as something that is kept or meant to be kept unknown or unseen by others. Using this definition, I've decided to focus on two main categories of secrets when it comes to video games: story secrets and gameplay secrets. Obviously, a story secret is any plot device or element the creators of the game hide from the player to achieve some kind of subversion or otherwise use said plot device as a storytelling medium. A gameplay secret is when something unrelated to the story that's usually like a reward to the player for achieving something in the game, which could range anywhere from the Fierce Deity mask from Majora's Mask to the Golden Poo from Breath of the Wild. The developers explicitly told you nothing about these rewards. The onus is on the player to find and discover them on their own. In my mind, Hollow Knight makes a perfect blend between these two philosophies, but we'll get there in a bit. In order to highlight how Hollow Knight achieves this, I need to show some examples of what I believe are weaker story and gameplay secrets. But before I get started on this section, I'd just like to clarify that I really enjoy both Ultrakill and Afterimage as a whole. These gripes I'm about to list are just my teeny nitpicks with otherwise amazing games. Also, it goes without saying, but to avoid spoilers, you should really play these games before watching the video. I promise they're absolutely worth your time. Or don't. I'm not your mom. Mankind is dead. Blood is fuel. Hell is full. So opens Ultrakill, a style-based movement shooter that defied my expectations. If you didn't know, I regularly talk about my disdain for first-person shooters on stream. I don't know what it is about my brain, but it just won't function in the sense that I am totally and utterly unable to click on heads. My reaction speed just doesn't function in that way. I can slay spires and Hollow Knights with the best of them, but as soon as you put me into a multiplayer experience where my level of fun is directly correlated to how much my enemy is able to keep me from leaving spawn, I lose my mind. Which makes it even higher praise that Ultrakill is probably in my top 15? 20. In my top 20 games of all time. I have a hard time picking favorites. Suffice it to say that Ultrakill just has a certain je ne sais quoi when it comes to gameplay. I still wasn't good at shooting, but the combat and movement was addicting despite this. Put very simply, you have a style score that goes up when you kill enemies, and goes down when you get hit. There's also a ton of other bonuses, including specific ones related to each separate weapon, but that's not important. The catch is this. If you use any of your weapons too often, the multiplier goes down immensely, forcing you to swap to another several weapons before the first one is usable again. Not to say that you couldn't use the same gun if you wanted to, you can, but the coveted style index will remain at a paltry D if you do. On top of the tongue-in-cheek humor, many video game references and homages, and the abundant lore, it's this loop of using your favorite gun, then deciding which of your next guns you can bide your time with and or work better against the enemies in this certain room until your first one comes off cooldown, that makes Ultrakill so incredibly fun. And the thing you're chasing? The rankings. Each level has 3 metrics by which it assigns your rank: the time it took to complete the level, the number of enemies you killed, and your style ranking. Each of these can be graded from D to S, with the level aggregating the 3 scores into a final letter grade upon reaching the end, with the best score being P for perfect, when you get an S in each category. Getting a P rank in every stage of the world will trigger the secret P door to open, giving the player access to a final level containing the world's secret boss. But therein lies the problem. The skill it takes to achieve a P ranking on any given level is so ridiculously, momentously high. Your average player will most likely never see a single P on their screen throughout the entire playthrough. Which is a shame, because the bosses hidden behind these P doors are impressive as hell. This is why I think this gameplay secret isn't quite up to snuff. The reward is phenomenal, but unless you're willing to dedicate 100+ hours to routing everything out perfectly and completely mastering the mechanics, it just won't happen. It's a lot like these soul orbs that are hidden throughout most of the levels, usually requiring some tricky platforming or backtracking to discover. The requirement is fine in and of itself, but when it inevitably devolves into me with my eyes an inch away from the screen, looking for the slightest crevice or anomaly in the wall that could possibly lead to my reward, it becomes a chore. I play video games to be a sick-ass robot who kills other robots in hell, not to do chores. Sorry, Animal Crossing. I could go into why Hollow Knight doesn't fall into this trap, but I think it would serve my point better to talk about Afterimage first. Afterimage is a beautiful Metroidvania developed by Chinese studio Oregon Shanghai, released in April of 2023. In this game, you play as Renee, an amnesiac girl living in the world of Engarden, whose adventure is kickstarted when their mentor is kidnapped by a cloaked figure after an attack on their home village. And that's all you know, really. Other than the beginning cutscene and some cryptic answers from your small companion Ifri, you set out to rescue said mentor. In classic Metroidvania style, you're not told much about the story, except when you're fed lore bits by NPCs, or from these memory fragments you find littered around the map, or by reading the descriptions of different items. The only thing is, the world of Engarden is massive. I'm talking at least 2 to 3 times larger than the entire map of Hallownest. Watch how long it takes to scroll from one side of the map to the other. And that's zoomed all the way out. That's not a deal breaker itself. They still managed to make the world feel vibrant and alive, and again, with an incredibly charming art style, you will never be short of an amazing view. The issue begins when you try to mix in feeding the player lore with this ginormous map. The actual story behind Afterimage is incredibly complicated and long, with many interwoven pieces, but the player is only able to see one piece of the puzzle at a time. It'd be as if you're trying to solve a 5,000-piece puzzle by taking a random piece out of the box and placing everything together based on that one piece. The pace at which you're fed lore is sure to cause whiplash in any normal human, unless you have a photographic memory or something. For example, oftentimes a bit of lore you're fed early on in the game doesn't become relevant until much later. So much later, in fact, that either you're fed lore so slowly that every time you find a new piece, you go, okay, where does this one go? Is this that guy with the one thing that I learned about? And you have to scroll all the way back until you find whatever specific item or memory had that lore piece. Or you're bashed in the head with lore until it falls out of your ears and nothing ends up sticking because you've learned so much at once. This awkward story pacing messed with me so much that I was able to get to an ending of the game without even realizing that I was close to it. I thought it was just another boss fight, but then I was hit with the credits. Oh, and speaking of endings, there's 10 different endings, each with their own specific requirements. 9 of the endings are in groups of 3, to be fair, and have to deal with each of the 3 different protagonists, with the final ending being unrelated to any of them. However, only 3 of these endings are canon, with the others being reduced to what-ifs, and at that point, why even include them? Another thing that kind of bothers me about the story is that it feels very separated from the gameplay, having to stop everything to read through blocks of text about the history of Engarden would be fine, but when the game has to come to a screeching halt anytime this happens just for things to make sense, just like Ultrakill, it starts to feel like a chore. It feels like I'm studying for a test I have no chance of passing because the teacher never made a study guide for the midterm, so I have to read everything and pray that whatever knowledge sticks in my head is enough to get me a passing grade. Which is actually something that happened to me in college. God, I hated that teacher. Anyways, I know I've just complained a lot, but again, once I saw the whole picture, this became one of my favorite video game worlds and stories of all time, even rivaling that of Hallownest. And speaking of Hallownest, let's get to our main event, shall we? The point I'm trying to build up to is this. I believe that Hollow Knight seamlessly blends the story and gameplay secrets together, so one feels like a reward gained from the other, not in spite of it. In Ultrakill, the lore is amazing, but the gameplay required to get there is a mountain that feels just too high to climb. In Afterimage, the combat and platforming are so fun, but trying to piece together and understand the lore without help seems impossible. There's a quote that goes something like this, I don't remember where I heard it. If you have a story with different beats, and the word "and then" fits between all of those beats, you have a bad story. Something should happen, and because of the results of that thing, the story is allowed to progress. Afterimage and Ultrakill were dripping with this. In my first playthrough of Afterimage, the story felt very much "and then." The world was created, and then humans and Goliaths were born, and then there was a war, and then the world fell to ruin, and then I have to go save my mentor, and then the story lost me. And then I was so bored, but I still read through all the text because it felt like I was going to miss something important if I didn't. And then after doing that for the whole game, it just felt like I was being monologued to, and... Anyways. Ultrakill is more "and then" in the gameplay than the lore. It actually does an amazing job feeding the player bits and pieces of the history of Earth and Hell, but like I described earlier in the video, you have to memorize the level, and then kill all the enemies, and then make sure you're swapping between your guns for the optimal score, and then beat the level in a certain amount of time, and then do that for every stage, and then don't forget to grab the soul orbs, and then you get my point. What Hollow Knight does, though, is nothing short of genius. Even with how big the game is, the only thing required gameplay-wise is the players want to explore. Hell, you don't even need to see most of the game to beat it. The 80% speedrun ends the game with 16% completion, and if you're really dedicated, you can end with 11%. That makes 84 to 89% of the game a secret. But are you forced to get the 84% to have somewhat of an understanding of the story? Do you need to grind every single aspect of the game to perfection just to see a cool boss? No! No matter where you go, the game rewards you with both gameplay and story secrets. A quick venture into Green Path, you have Hornet being cryptic about the player character, a new ability, hidden lore tablets that hint at the history of the area while still being mysterious enough to have you itching for more, a totally handy and not at all suspicious place to store your geo, a literal cult whose leader you get to take on in battle. Of course, this happens later when you have more abilities, but do you see my point? I can go on and on in this way for each of the areas in the game. Gameplay rewards story, which begets more gameplay, which rewards more story, which begets more gameplay, which rewards... You see what I'm getting at here? It's exactly this loop that makes Hollow Knight such a riveting experience, despite the fact that you're absolutely getting lost once or twice. Even in your wanderlust stupor, you're going to find something that blows your mind. You've been teased so many times with a deeper meaning behind things, and you're just on the cusp of understanding when you finally reach the correct map, and everything comes together in the most brilliant way possible. An example of this would be when you finally meet the Pale King. Throughout the entire game, you're told how brilliant, how elegant, what a great leader he was. Everything you've seen so far has been the direct result of one of the Pale King's actions in one way or another. During my casual playthrough, I wanted to see the Pale King so bad. I was imagining some kind of boss fight, having to fight the infected Pale King, as strong as he is being a mere fraction of what his power once was. And when I discovered the White Palace, I thought, oh my god, this is it. Not only did all my story secrets point to this being the moment that I had been waiting for as a player, I had to use all of my gameplay secrets, or abilities in this case, to traverse my way through the palace. Everything felt like it was leading up to this point. You take the final elevator up, and there he is. A corpse. In the end, even this bastion of divinity that had been preached about the entire game couldn't escape his own fate. But then, the twist. You are the Hollow Knight. Everything the Pale King did, all the atrocities he committed for the benefit of the kingdom that you've learned about the entire game, that was for you. the player. You are the culmination of all that came before. You are the one who can realize the Pale King's plans, the only one who can have them come to fruition. You are the Hollow Knight. And this is just one reason why Hollow Knight is amazing at using its secrets. That isn't to say that it's a perfect game compared to the other two. It certainly has its issues. I'm merely saying that Team Cherry manages to turn the chore aspect of their game into an amazing, seamless part of the experience. And I think that's pretty cool. Hey everyone. What started out as simply counting the number of secrets on Hollow Knight quickly turned into my first video essay, and I was feverishly researching and writing through the night to get this idea onto the page. I've never dabbled in writing down my own thoughts like this before, so please let me know what you think in the comments. I'd be happy to hear some feedback on this style of video, and if people like it, maybe I'll make some more. Who knows? With how well crafted Hollow Knight is, it's no wonder it's garnered the audience it has today. Even though it has its flaws, I'll always enjoy ranting about Hallownest's secrets. Thanks for watching.